Now, going over to another interesting cultural news, you have Tucker Carlson interviewing Andrew Tate on Twitter and immediately going viral. Now, Tucker Carlson has already exponentially increased his reach on Twitter. He has 9 million followers on the Twitter. And he got that within a very short period of time, which also goes to show you how much of a business blunder Fox News was for firing him, as their ratings crashed to the ground and become mediocre at best. Now, the interview with Andrew Tate has 73.6 million views within 3 days. Now, it is important to say when we say views in terms of the Twitter videos when you're scrolling through, they also, I think they're technically called impressions. So it doesn't necessarily mean the person clicked on the video and watched the whole thing, but it is one of those instances where it came across their timeline, so they saw it, but I don't know what the actual click rate is. That might be something different. Now, they also got 377,000 likes in about 2 or 3 days. And people are, of course, freaking out about Tucker Carlson immediately, all calling him evil, the scum of the earth, because he had the audacity to injure Andrew Tate, who, again, he'll have his time in court, but he has not been convicted of anything yet. Granted, some people find what he says especially abrasive and some offensive, but again, with the exception of Michigan, free speech is still worth something. Now, this interview is about 2.5 hours long, but I want to play one of my favorite highlights as I watched a little bit of it.
You're still a human trafficker.
But force, what does that consist of? Forcing someone to do something. Are they accusing you of using violence or?
No, they're accusing me, and this is the thing, they're accusing me of using the lover boy method, coercing them by being nice.
And by the way, these charges presumably are public, so...
They're public, and this is extremely serious, but if you actually analyze the overall case against me, they're saying that Andrew and his brother, by being nice men, convinced girls to have TikTok accounts and then take the money. And it's very interesting because inside of the entire case file, there's not a single financial transaction to us for money.
Again, I'm not a business guru, but I would say that's not a sustainable business model. So I don't know how they're going to accuse him of that. But
what are the penalties?
They're extremely severe, 5 to 10 years in jail. And I've already served, coming up now, 7 months in a form of jail. They can only...
So you are essentially incarcerated right now?
Absolutely, I'm on house arrest. And that counts as jail. You can only be held 6 months without charge. I was initially picked up, thrown in a cell without charge.
Again, this was taking place in Romania, which subsequently now looks like a third world hellhole, where you have no rights. You're thrown in jail. Eventually you're told what you're charged for. You may or may not get any justice. So not great PR for Romania. I don't know what their tourism is like, but I don't think it's going to increase from this interaction.
And I think the intention of the entire investigation at that point was to find the crime, because they had very, very weak evidence. They contacted 2,000 people who know me or knew me. They tried very hard to convince some female somewhere to come forward and say something bad about me. The media machine, which works hands in hands with the justice machine, as you know very well, did exactly that. In fact, they offered bribes effectively. They'd call up ex-girlfriends and say, if you have anything bad to say about Andrew, we can pay you $50,000 for the story. And they tried very hard.
50 grand for that? Now, that's a fascinating cultural difference, because I can't help but think if they had that offer for 50 grand in the United States, those girls would just be all over that easy money. Because, of course, in the United States, you also get a lot of cultural social status by accusing men of things.
They didn't find any evidence of anything. They then released me on house arrest, and then 2 days before the legal limit in which they had to drop everything, they charged me with whatever they had from the beginning.
That was one of the creepiest things about Romania, this whole interaction thus far. They threw him in jail for, I believe, 6 to 9 months? And the Romanian justice system, and I use those quotes, my fingers almost broke by the disdain for the quotes, it's not justice at all. But basically they could throw you in jail and they can keep you there without telling you what you're charged for and without charging you for X amount of time. So, was it 2 or 3 days before that time limit ran out? They came forward like, oh yeah, we're going to charge you with this. Just on its face surface, does that sound like justice at all? sounds disgustingly backwards ass.
Is very little. And now we have to wait for the Romanian judicial system to analyze the file and, God willing, throw it away.
How long did you spend in jail?
I was in jail for 92 days in a Romanian jail cell.
What was that like?
It was certainly an interesting experience. I won't lie and say it was easy. It was certainly very difficult. The uncertainty of it. It's a very uncertain situation to be picked up on just before New Year's Eve and thrown in a cell without charge. And I'm asking different prison guards and different prisoners, how long am I going to be here? One prisoner was like, I've been here 2 years. I was like, have you been charged? He goes, yeah, but I haven't gone to court yet. Like,
Wow.
I've been there for years.
Imagine being in prison for 2 years. You still haven't seen your court date.
I thought I was going to be there for years, and it certainly takes a mental toll on you. And I think jail is a different experience when you know you're innocent. There was a guy in there for murder. He's like, yeah, I murdered someone, I'm in jail. You can your soul and your mind
Yes.
can accept the punishment for a crime. But when you've actually done nothing wrong, I think jail is a lot harder.
Did you know why you were there?
Not initially. So for about the first 2 weeks, I never actually got told in English what I was accused of because I was arrested on December 29th. There's New Year's.
What were the circumstances of that?
Yeah, December 29th, 5 a.m., the armed guards ran in this house. They spent all day searching the entire house. They're very interested in electronics, as most federal agencies are. And then they took me that evening and said, we're going to go and put you in jail for 24 hours. And after 24 hours, you see a judge, and the judge will decide if you stay in jail. And the judge decided I should stay in jail.
What did you do? I mean, who'd you call?
I had a lawyer, and my lawyer came and he said, we need to analyze the case file. We need to see what they have against you. You're being accused of human trafficking. It's like, human trafficking? That's insane. Who? When? What? I went to jail, and then I was given all this paper in Romanian. I don't speak Romanian, although I live here. And then I was waiting for the translation. So I think it's about 2 weeks before I finally got the papers in English to understand why I was in a jail cell. And then I really understood how insane the accusations were.
What is human trafficking?
Yeah, so the overall, my understanding of it, they're saying that human trafficking is when you convince a woman to do something she doesn't want to do for financial gain. And there's different methods you can do that. You can do that through force, and you can also do that through
How is that-
emotional coercion.
I think most people, just speaking from the American perspective, most people believe that human trafficking is effectively slavery, selling human beings.
That's what I believe as well. Absolutely. And this is the thing that's so interesting. When you finally end up the enemy of the matrix, and they use the legal system as a weapon to punish you for having an opinion, you realize how subjective the law is.
And another interesting thing that I saw throughout the interview, Tucker eventually asked him, well, what about the embassies? Do they do anything for you? Because it turns out Andrew Tate has dual or triple citizenship. So he's a U.S. citizen as well as a citizen of the U.K. And he said the U.S. government basically did nothing, which of course they wouldn't, because he's pretty counterculture to what the United States government is currently standing for. Although, if you hate the United States, like Brittany Griner, we will trade the weapons, the Lord of War, literally the Lord of War from the movie. We traded him for a mediocre basketball player who was dumb enough to bring drugs into Russia. A little bit of an interesting contrast with the involvement of the U.S. government and the U.S. embassies and all the entities working to get American citizens free, or not subsequently free in the case of Andrew Tate, or the United States Marine that's still in Russia. The U.S. government, they didn't fight for him. But Brittany Griner, the one WNBA player that we know about, and the one time we actually know, ironically, the only time anyone paid attention to a WNBA trade was when we traded Victor Bout, the Lord of War, for her, which perhaps is the worst trade in history. Time shall tell, though. There's still many years for politicians to do what politicians do. Interesting enough. Now, I want to especially thank everyone for taking the time to tune in today. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of July, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to like and comment. The feedback is greatly appreciated as we made the show better and better. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.